Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel Code for Tech Solutions. Today in this video, we are going to create a new backend application with a combination of Node.js and MariaDB. On the backend side, we are going to use Node.js and for the database, we are going to use MariaDB. And in this video, we are also going to implement all the CRUD operations using this combination of Node.js and MariaDB as a database. So these are some points which we are going to cover in sequence. Like first, we will create a database and table in MariaDB using HDSQL interface. Next, we are going to create a backend application using Node.js, and in that we are going to configure the MariaDB database in Node.js. We are going to implement all the CRUD operations, and finally we are going to test our CRUD operations and APIs using postman. So this is about all the points which we are going to cover in this video. So without any further ado, so let us jump into the coding part. So first of all, we will create our database and table using this HDSQL user interface. So you need to install it. You need to first install the MariaDB. If you have not installed, I have another video for how to install a MariaDB database on Windows operating system. Please go through that and install it. Once you install it, HDSQL user interface will get installed along with the MariaDB installation. So once that is installed, that will appear like this icon. It's an HDSQL. So you can click on this, and here it is a session, and you need to enter the username and password. And once you enter the username and password, you can click on open button, and now it will show the it will show us the interface with that. Now here is the session. Now in order to create a new database, we can create or click on this session, right click on this session, and here is the option create new database. We can click on this. Next, like we can create our database name. Let's say it's a product master, and we can click on OK, and we can see this database is created. Now inside this, we can right click on this database option, and here is the new create table option. We can click on that, and here we can enter our table name. So product is our table name, and here in order to add the columns, we need to click on this add button, and this is the plus button you need to click on. So here is our first column, which is a product ID. Here we can mention it's a begin as a data type, and here we need to make it as a primary key. So we can right click on the index option, and here is we have made it as a primary key. Another thing we need to do, default null should not get allowed for this one. Rather we can make it as an auto increment and click on OK. Fine. So we have made it as a primary key and auto incremented, so that every time we add a product object into the database, it should get incremented by 1. Fine. Next column we can add as a name and data type as a varchar, and this is the length. Next column we can add as a category, and it's a varchar type. And finally we can add a brand column, which is a varchar type. And so in this way, like we have created 4 different columns. Now once that is done, we can simply click on save button, and we can see the table is created with name product and with all these columns. Fine. So initially the table is you can see the table is empty. So if we execute this query, select start from product, it will only show the column names. There is no data. So with this, like we have created our product underscore master database, and inside that we have created a new table with name product. Fine. So we are done with our first step of creating a database and table in MariaDB. So next thing, like we can create our backend application using Node.js. So let me open the VS Code first. Now we can create one folder with name like let's say product underscore or product hyphen server, we can go to this folder. Now we can see the folder is empty now, so we need to initialize it using command npm init -y. Fine. We can see the package.json is created. Now next thing, like, we need to install all the required packages or modules which we are going to use. First we are going to use Express backend framework. Next Node.js. Next like we are going to use body parser, and next like we need to add MariaDB module as well. So this Express is a backend framework with which we are going to implement our backend server. Node.js, it will keep on detecting the code changes, and without even refreshing, it will we do not need to rebuild the code. Body parser, like it in order to deal with the JSON related functions and operations, it will help us to achieve that. And this is the MariaDB database module with which we are going to connect with the MariaDB database. So we can install it in one go. So fine, we can see all the dependencies added inside this dependency. Now next thing, like, we can create one new server with name server.js file, and inside this what all things we are going to use. Like, first of all, we are going to import the modules which we are going to use. Next we are going to create a backend server, Node.js server. Next we are going to connect to the database. And finally we are going to implement our CRUD operations. Fine. So all these things we are going to implement in a sequence. So what we can do, we can create a separate files, or we can put everything in a same file. So that is up to you. So let us do with import. So the import, we are going to use Express. So we need Express. Next thing, like, we need to import, sorry, not an import, it's a constant. Next thing, like, we are going to use our it's a next, our application is going to use this Express framework. Next we are going to add body parser. Next we are going to add constant for port, and here we can mention process.environment.port, or we can specify a particular port, like let's say it's 3000. And finally our app is going to use, so we need to add one more constant for our database, which is like MariaDB, and we need to add MariaDB as well. Fine. Now our app is going to use Express.js. So first of all, our app is going to use body parser dot URL encoded, and inside which we are going to use extended as an false. Next thing, like, our app is going to use fine. So this much is enough. Okay, one more thing we need to add, like body parser dot JSON to deal with JSON. Fine. Next thing, our app should listen to port and we can log this using console.show. Let's say server is running on port and here is our port. Fine, we can complete it. To remove this unwanted bracket. Fine. Now let us run our application to check if everything is working fine. We can run our application using command npm start. Now we need to add our server entry into this because by default it is using server.js index.js. We need to point to server.js and here we need to add the start script and here we can mention our node server.js. Fine, and we can save it. Now let us rerun it again. Okay, so some bracket is missing. Let us check. This bracket is for this completion and there is one more bracket we need to add. Fine, we can save it. Fine, our server is running fine on port 3000. Now let us create our we are done with our node server creation part, which is fine. It's from here. Now let us create our database part. So for database we can create one new folder inside which we can add some file. Let's say it's our db folder inside which we can create one db.js and here we can import our MariaDB we require to connect to. Now next thing, like we can use we can define one variable for pool and we can use MariaDB dot create pool. So inside this pool we need to add host entry which is a local host. Next, like user which is a root, or you can create your custom users and add it. Next we can add password and you can mention your password. In my case it's now next thing, like we can add our port number. By default it's a 006 and if you have changed you need to add the change to port at here. And finally we can add the database part and here our database name which is a product underscore master in our case, and if you want to cross check we can check it is a product underscore master. Fine, so we are done with our database configuration part. Now here we need to do one more thing, like we need to export this module using exports and here we can use our object dot freeze and inside this we can add pool, we can assign this pool. Fine, so with this, like we are going to export this pool so that it will be available to our rest of the modules. Fine. So we are done with this one. Now let us come to our server.js, and here we need to import this. This is the DB, and here we require DB, and this is the DB. Fine. Now here we are done with our MariaDB connection, and that part we have put in separate file, so which is our db.js, which is inside that. Now next thing, we are going to implement our CRUD operations, and here we are going to use our app.get method, and here we are going to mention our endpoint, which is products in our case, and here we are going to call the request and response async, and here actually we are going to use the try catch block. And here first of all we are going to define some constant for preparing the SQL. So what is the query for get API? It's like select star from product, that's it. And the next thing, like what we can do, we can use some result, and for result we are going to call our we are going to use await, and here we are going to use DB, and on DB we are going to call pool, and here we are going to call query. So this is the DB database object, and on which we are going to call the pool, and on pool we are going to call the query. So here we are going to pass the first parameter as an SQL, that's it. And here it's an select query, so we are not going to pass any parameter. With this we are done. Now here we need to complete the catch try block, and here we need to add the catch block, and here it's an error, and here we can throw this error, that's it. Now we can cross check it once. This is the endpoint, and this is the request response callback, and this is the SQL which we have prepared for getting data from the database for all the products, and this is the result. And finally we need to return the result with response.send, and here we are going to pass this result. Fine, we can save it. So we can save it. Fine. So similar way we can add for our post mapping. So here is our post mapping, and for post mapping our query should be like insert into product, and for product we are going to mention all the names, like let's say first is our name, next is our category, and next is a brand, and for values we can say there is a placeholder for all this, so we can add this, and values after that we can complete. Fine. So this is about the SQL part. Now we need to do one more thing. Here we need to capture all the input params. Let's say this is our new product, and this is our request.body. Now here for this SQL we need to add our all the input params, like first is the name, next is a category, and next is a dot brand. So all these things we have added passed as an input field, like first is a name, and next is a category, and final it's a brand. That's it. We are done with this one. Now we can complete this. Fine. And finally we can return our, from here we can return a response.json, and here is our result. Fine. Now here we can do one more thing, like here it should not return any, it should not give any error, so that we for begin to, like, it may give some error related to the serialization type. So to avoid that, we need to mention this, like this is the prototype.toJSON we can use, and here we can mention one function which will return this dot to string, and we can complete this, so that it should not give any serialization related issues for id. Fine. We are done with our post method. Similar way we can add our patch mapping to update our object. So this is the post, and we need to make it as a patch, and here for updation we need to pass the product id as well. So here we can pass this product id. Fine. And we need to take the product id along with the request body. Now let's say here is a constant for id, and here we can extract the product id from the request.params. Fine. And the same product id we need to pass it for updation. We need to update the query, like update product, and here we can mention like set name is equal to placeholder, category is equal to placeholder, and next like brand is equal to placeholder, where we need to add where clause, and here we need to mention like our product id is equal to again placeholder. So this is the update query which will allow us to update, insert the updated project into the database. That's it. Now here for this query we have 4 input parameters. This is the all like name, category, and brand, and we need to add for product id as well, which we have extracted it here. So that id we need to pass it here. Fine. With this we are done with our patch method. Similar way we need to add for delete method. So this is about delete API, and for delete API we do not need to pass the body, only the id is enough. So we need to prepare the delete query first. It's an delete from product, and here we can mention this is our product id. For the product id we do not need to pass any body, only the id is enough to delete the product from the database. That's it. Now we are going to pass this delete SQL, and this is the id as an input parameter. With this we are done with our delete API. Fine. We can save it. Now with this we are done with all the CRUD operations. Now let us test it using the postman. Let me open the postman first. Fine. So let us first select the get method, and here we are going to use this query. This is the 3000, which is a port which we have mentioned in our server. This is the 3000 and local host, and this is the product which is the endpoint, and this is the endpoint everywhere we are using. Fine. Now let us select this raw body raw, and for here we can select JSON and we can simply click on next button. So let us check. Okay. So something, okay, support authentication protocol. Okay, so let us check why it is coming as such. Here we can simply pass the actual URL at here. Fine. So let us check. Now this is the get method. So this is not for, okay, sync, and this is the await. Same SQL we are passing it here. Sorry, our database name is something different, which is, no, this is the product to underscore master, and same we are using it here, so it should work, I suppose. Let us check. So let us call the get method first and check. Retrieve connection from full timeout after. Sorry, the password is something, it should be root123, due to which it was missing. Fine, now let us cross check it once. the password was incorrect, due to which it was not showing. Now it is showing the empty array, which is as expected. Now let us check for our post mapping as well, and here we can select this JSON, and here we need to enter some object. So let us add something new object right here. Let us say it's a John Peter category laptop and brand, let's say Dell, and we can send it. Now we can see the record is added successfully, first record. Now if you want to call by get method, we can see the record is added successfully. We can cross check in database by calling the select query. Yes, we can see, and this product ID field is getting auto incremented by 1 every time we add the product into the database. That's it. So this is about post, which is working fine. Similar way we can try for, let us add one more entry. Let us say Kevin, and it's on mobile, and it is Vivo. Fine. Yes, we can see second entry is added as expected, and now we have two entries. If we go back to our database and check, yes, we have two entries, which is as expected. Now let us try for patch method. So we can copy some object to modify it for patch method, and here we need to select the patch HTTP method. Here is the body, and we need to pass the actual body, which is a modified, which should be the modified object. And here we can modify it. Instead of Kevin, we can say Robin, and here instead of mobile we can say laptop, and we can say it's an HP. Fine. Now here we need to add one more thing, like we need to copy the URL, and as this is the patch method, we need to add the actual product ID which we are going to modify. That's it. So we have passed the two parameters as we have written on the server.js. Here we are going to pass the product ID as well as actual object, modified object, and this is the ID. So we need to pass all these things. Fine, we can send it. Yes, we can see one object is modified. If you call the get method, we can see the second object is modified as expected. Similar way we can cross check into the database. Yes, we can see the second object is modified. Now finally we can try for delete object. Now let us try for delete object, and we need to select the delete method, HTTP method. This is the body. We need to select the JSON part, and now we are passing the ID, which is enough for deletion. So it will delete the product ID second. Now if we cross check with the get method, now it is showing only one object because second object we have just deleted. Now if we cross check into the database as well, it should show the one entry. Fine. With this, like, all the CRUD operations is working fine as expected. So thank you so much for watching this video. So I would request you to please like and subscribe the same. Thank you so much.